you showed me this. You probably just learned that you could pee outside too. I think you actually showed me. You told me you were the first person to bring it to my attention that I could also pee outside. You found it out. This is a big thing and it must be a big thing in the turn of bloodline. When you find out about peeing outside, hopefully Mac is going to share this newfound information to his peers as well. It was like my backyard, and then there was like that field that was like not claimed by anyone in particular, so we kind of made it our own. And like that would be a thing. Like after school, I remember like we would meet up, like we're going to go take a piss. It was like a thing. We were like, let's do it. Yeah, because at that point in my life, I was only, you piss in your diaper, you get potty trained, you're sitting down and peeing. You might, mature a little bit. You might become a big boy and stand up and pee, which I don't even think I was doing at that time. So it was kind of like I was standing up and peeing for the first time, and now I'm peeing outside. It was like so much rebellious activities that were going on in that backyard, but it must have been funny for my parents to find out, like, we're hanging out, whatever, 5 years old, 6 years old, and they're like, what are they doing? And it's like, and I guess that they must have knew they just catch two fucking 6-year-olds.
Do you remember we had a corner? Your corner was like the far right end, and my corner was like the far left end. Do you remember that?
I remember we both had like designated places. Yes.
Yes, it was like on opposite corners of the backyard. Remember there was like those people that lived like through your backyard, and you used to get scared shitless of their dogs, but they were like a mile away from.
Oh my God, man! But one time that dog ran into the backyard. I remember that. I was on the back of my grandfather's truck, I think, and I was like just holding on for dear life. I was so scared of dogs, man. I still don't trust dogs that much, but Willie, the dog here, he's been sleeping with me over the last week. We've been having a gay cuddle session, me and the dog. So shout out to Willie. He hops in the bed with me, and I'm like, this is a good companion. I understand why people are so connected with dogs now. This little guy is jumping in bed. He's just like so hyper and annoying. So hyper and annoying 95% of the time, but it's like if you're on the same wavelength, it's like we're going to bed, he'll follow me, he'll lay on the ground. It's like a new connection I've never had with an animal before. I'm like, I'm starting to warm up to this dog.
Oh yeah, it's just like any, like not just like any relationship, but it's like a different kind of relationship that you can have, especially with dogs. Like dogs are very much companions. I used to have two, actually, I have two funny Derek memories that like stuck with me for a long time.
My dad, Big D.
Both times I felt like bad. The first one, I think I told you about this. Like I used to have a Spider-Man. There was like a silly spray or whatever. You know what I mean? Like the shoot, like, you know what I mean? But it was like Spider-Man, and you would go, and it like would shoot the thing out.
Bro, the Spider-Man spray, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what you're going to say. That was an amazing product.
It was an amazing product. So I had one at my house, like when I was super young. And then one day I was at my grandmother's, and I went to your house, and you weren't home. But your garage door was open like 1.5 feet. And I was like, well, if that's open, somebody's probably in there. And then I went in there, and then there was the Spider-Man silly spray sitting there. And I'm like, motherfucker, here we go. So I put that thing on, man. I ran around your whole backyard, and I was like, I'm going to silly spray the tree to like the swing set to this, to that. And it was all over your backyard. And then you guys came home like as I was like finishing making a mess of your whole backyard. And your dad was like, what are you doing? He's like, you can't come to somebody's house and make a mess like this. And I was like, oh no. And I ran home. I was so embarrassed.
So wait, you came to my house and the silly string. Yeah, how old would you think that you would have been at the time? Like, I remember this. You were like 7, maybe?
Oh, no, I don't think I was that old.
The Curry Street gang activity was at an all-time high. Like, so you had it, and then you found out that I got it too, and you were mad because I got it as well.
No, I just went looking for you, and then I walked into your garage because it was kind of open, and I was like, somebody's probably in there. And I went in, it was like the first thing I saw was the spray, and I was like, oh no way, I used to have this. And I just like,
oh, you knew what it was.
Yeah,
you had no ill intention. You just were like, this is fun when you spray the silly string all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, I
Oh my
was
God,
super
man.
young. I didn't move into like the house on Turner Street yet, so I moved in there when I was like 5 or 6, so it was before then. Like it was
Bro,
a long time ago.
that's why the fuck were we even roaming around like that at 5? Or you would just like, that's crazy. Just from it out, like to see that now, like you were 2 houses over, so you had to leave like little 5-year-old walking over. It's like, oh, like the confidence to be like, I'm just gonna stroll in here, whatever. Doors open, nothing's there. To be able to identify that the silly string is there. You remember you used to have it. You know what it can do. You pick it up. You do your damn thing. Fascinating. That's a great. Those were great times
Oh, dude,
on
being
courtesy.
a
We
kid
were
is
hanging out.
crazy. It's super
Being a kid
crazy.
is crazy, man. Being a kid's underrated.
Oh man, it's amazing when you can like, I don't know, like you don't know anything, so like you don't know like what there is and what there isn't. Like Mac was the other night, that same day that I ended up had a couple beer because I thought I was gonna go to the beach, but I ended up just taking them home. I was barbecuing, had a couple beer, and was watching Luca, and Mac was outside with me while I was barbecuing, and he was just like, he's like, "Do the sun and the moon ever like meet?" You know what I mean? Just like asking me, like he's just looking into space. He's standing on his slide, looking up into the sky, and he's just like wondering about all these like things. And it's like incredible the questions that like children will come to you with.
And it's super awesome that you get to answer those questions. And just to think like 100% that those questions are totally, fascinating when you think back when you had those questions as well, because you're just getting thrown, all this information is getting thrown at you and you're so new to everything. It's like your brain is developing and you went from being like a tiny baby and you learn how to speak. It's unbelievable how like children just pick up after listening to people around them speak a certain language for so long, and they just are being communicated with, and they just eventually can speak that language. And now it's like, okay, now I know what the sun is, and it's called the sun, and that's the moon, and that comes out at night, and they're both in the sky. Like, these are very valid questions for a 4-year-old to ask. And it's as we get older, there's certain things that we kind of have like that, like we continue to always have questions.
Your views become more rigid.
Yeah,
Like
but
you get an understanding for things, right? And then it's like you
but they
don't.
become more complex of questions. So like our questions become more that like there's more of a predetermined opinion and base level understanding going into the question. Like you could be in your early 20s and you want to learn a little bit more about finances and investing. Like that's something that I had no knowledge about a year ago, and I'd have like a entry level, maybe beginner, intermediate level of understanding now, and you as well. But that was something I had absolutely really no clue about prior to last year. And it's like we always have very like oblivious questions, or like questions that we ask that are so basic, but it's just they kind of have different levels of knowledge as we get older. But it's like,
yeah, and your brain's only got like so much kind of, it's
yeah.
kind of got sort of like infinite storage space, but like not really. Like you can only seriously pay attention to so much at once. But like, what if you had like a lot of, what if you had a fresh hard drive in there? You know what I mean? And it's like,
Oh, it's just it's exciting.
It's not full. There's nothing. Nothing's predetermined. You know what I mean? You don't have a bias going into anything. It's just like, I'm going to ask this question. And I remember as a kid being like confused that my father wasn't driven nuts by me asking him all the time. I would just follow him around, like ask him shit, because I knew like my dad's like everybody grows up, I think, at least when they're young, everybody that has their father around thinking that their father is like the smartest. You know what I mean? Especially if you're a boy, like you think like my dad knows everything, but my dad is like stupid smart particularly when it comes to like science, chemistry, and mathematics. So like he could explain certain things to me at like such a depth that I didn't even want to hear the answer anymore. And it's just interesting to like watch my own son, especially when you're like my dad was not much older than me when he had me, right? So like I'm like following him around, asking him all these questions, like he knows everything. And he's probably like, oh my God, I don't even have an answer for this. I don't know how he wasn't so frustrated, because Max always like ask me something. I'm like, you know what I mean? But it's crazy that they have that like time in their life. like, and it feels like we were just there. Like I can still remember things from when we were really little that are like fresh, and I'm like, now I'm part of this process, or like I'm a tier higher in this process where it's like he believes that like I can show him everything.
Yeah, I remember thinking the same thing. I'm sure that's pretty common for kids that just kind of trust that their parents have the undeniable truth to any question that they ask. But that's the thing is like, like all of your all your earlier information that you have processed as a young kid is like that most likely came from your parents telling you stuff. I mean, that's how you learn the English language or whatever language you speak, and you learn like the basis of everything and what's right and what's wrong. So it would only make sense for when you're younger, the person that you would go to try to get the answer to any question that you have would be your parents. But I was like very confident as well. Like you said, like your dad knows everything because you have a problem, you break something, they try to fix it. You see them, working on stuff in the garage, or like, they take you places, and they're most parents are just kind of talking to their kids and telling them, oh, this is how this, was made or whatever, shit like that. And, you just kind of have that trust that your parents will educate you on any question that you have. But as you get older and you start developing your own interests and you're kind of teaching yourself stuff, it becomes very fascinating when you realize that your parents are just people that they're adults, people. Yes, but they're just people. They just have lived longer than you. So of course they have the answers to more things than you, but it's not unlikely for you to be younger than them and have more answers to certain things that they know absolutely nothing about. It's just like
the really confusing thing